Valentine's Day, a day dedicated to love, romance, and the celebration of affection between partners. It's a time for exchanging sweet notes, heartfelt gifts, and promises of everlasting love. But not all Valentine's Days are filled with joy and happiness. Sometimes, this day of love can turn into a day of terror. Today, we bring you 10 true Valentine's Day horror stories that will make you think twice about what lurks behind the sweet facade of February 14th. Story 1. The Mysterious Valentine. Our first story takes us to a quiet suburban neighborhood where Sarah, a young woman, eagerly awaited Valentine's Day. Sarah had recently started dating a charming man named James. He was thoughtful, kind, and seemed to know exactly what she wanted. On the morning of February 14th, she found a beautiful bouquet of roses on her doorstep with a card that simply read, "From your secret admirer," assuming it was from James. She felt a surge of excitement. But when she met James for their planned dinner date, he denied sending the flowers. Sarah was puzzled, but dismissed it as a sweet gesture from a secret admirer. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of a terrifying ordeal. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began receiving more gifts, chocolates, jewelry, and even love letters. Each time, the gifts were left at her doorstep, and each time, James denied any involvement. Sarah's excitement turned to fear when she started receiving disturbing messages. "I'm always watching you," one message read. Another said, "You belong to me." She reported the incidents to the police, but without any evidence or suspect, there was little they could do. One night, Sarah woke up to the sound of footsteps outside her window. She peeked through the curtains to see a shadowy figure standing in her yard, staring directly at her. Terrified, Sarah called the police, but by the time they arrived, the figure was gone. This continued for weeks, until one night, the stalker broke into her home. Sarah managed to hide in a closet and call 911. The police arrived just in time to catch the intruder, a man who had become obsessed with Sarah after a brief encounter months earlier. He had been following her ever since, planning to make her his on Valentine's Day. Sarah was lucky to escape unharmed, but the experience left her scarred. Valentine's Day is often seen as the perfect time to propose to a loved one. For Mark, a young man deeply in love with his girlfriend, Emily, it seemed like the ideal opportunity. He planned an elaborate proposal at a secluded cabin in the woods, where they could spend a romantic weekend together. Mark decorated the cabin with candles, rose petals, and a bottle of champagne. As they settled in for the evening, a storm began to brew outside, adding an eerie atmosphere to the night. After dinner, Mark led Emily to the fireplace, got down on one knee, and proposed. Emily, overjoyed, accepted immediately, but their happiness was short-lived. The storm knocked out the power, plunging the cabin into darkness. They decided to go to bed early, hoping the storm would pass by morning. In the middle of the night, they were awakened by a loud bang on the door. Mark grabbed a flashlight and cautiously approached the door. As he opened it, he was met with a horrifying sight, a blooded man standing in the doorway, begging for help. The man claimed he had been attacked by a wild animal and needed help. Mark and Emily, though terrified, couldn't leave him outside in the storm. They brought him in, bandaged his wounds, and gave him a place to rest. But, as the night went on, they realized something was very wrong. The man's story kept changing, and his behavior became increasingly erratic. Mark decided to check on him during the night and found him standing over Emily with a knife. Mark managed to subdue the man, and Emily called the police. It turned out that the stranger was a fugitive who had escaped from a nearby prison. He had killed his cellmate and was hiding in the woods, looking for his next victim. Mark and Emily's romantic weekend turned into a nightmare they would never forget. Story 3. The Ghost of Valentine's Past. Our next story takes us to an old, historic hotel known for its romantic ambience and ghostly inhabitants. Jennifer and Michael, a couple celebrating their first Valentine's Day together, decided to spend the night at this hotel. Intrigued by its charm and the rumors of hauntings, They checked into the lover's suite, a room with a tragic history. Decades ago, a bride-to-be had taken her own life in that very room after being left at the altar on Valentine's Day. Since then, guests had reported strange occurrences, flickering lights, cold spots, and the sound of sobbing in the night. Jennifer and Michael laughed off the ghost stories and settled in for a romantic evening. They enjoyed a candlelit dinner and shared a toast to their future. But, as the night went on, strange things began to happen. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, and they heard faint crying coming from the bathroom. When they investigated, the crying stopped, but the mirror was fogged up with the words "Leave now" written in the condensation. Jennifer, more sensitive to the supernatural, was convinced the room was haunted. Michael tried to calm her down, but then the lights began to flicker, and the bathroom door slammed shut on its own. They decided to leave the room and spend the rest of the night in the hotel lobby. The next morning, they checked out early and spoke to the hotel manager, who confirmed the room's haunted history. Jennifer and Michael left with a story they would tell for years, but they never returned to that hotel. Story 4: The Valentine's Day Massacre. In a small town, Valentine's Day turned into a day of horror when a deranged lover took his obsession to a deadly extreme. Lisa had broken up with her boyfriend, Tom, a few months before Valentine's Day. Tom, unable to accept the breakup, became increasingly unstable. On Valentine's Day, Lisa went out with her friends to a local bar, trying to enjoy the holiday and move on from her past. Tom, however, had other plans. Tom showed up at the bar, drunk and angry. He confronted Lisa, causing a scene. The bar's security removed him, but he waited outside, watching and seething with rage. When Lisa and her friends left the bar, Tom followed them to Lisa's home. He forced his way inside and began a violent rampage. Lisa's friends tried to protect her, but Tom was armed and dangerous. By the time the police arrived, it was too late. Tom had killed Lisa and 2 of her friends before turning the weapon on himself. The town was left in shock, and Valentine's Day was forever tainted by the memory of the massacre. Lisa's family and friends mourned the loss of their loved ones, and the community came together to support each other. A romantic dinner at home turned into a night of terror for Alex and Megan, a young couple celebrating their second Valentine's Day together. Alex had planned a special evening. He cooked Megan's favorite meal, set the table with candles and flowers, and even prepared a playlist of their favorite songs. They were enjoying their dinner when they heard a strange noise coming from the basement. At first, they thought it might be the wind or the house settling, but the noise persisted. Alex decided to investigate while Megan stayed in the dining room. As he descended into the basement, the noise grew louder, a scratching, shuffling sound. He found nothing unusual at first, but then he noticed a small, hidden door in the corner of the basement that he had never seen before. Curious, Alex opened the door and found a narrow, dark passageway leading to a hidden room. Inside, he discovered a makeshift living space, a sleeping bag, empty food containers, and personal items that didn't belong to them. Realizing someone had been living in their basement without their knowledge, Alex rushed back upstairs to warn Megan. As they called the police, they heard footsteps coming from the basement. They locked themselves in a room and waited for the authorities to arrive. The police found and arrested a homeless man who had been secretly living in their basement for weeks, entering and exiting through a small window. Alex and Megan were shaken by the ordeal, but grateful they had discovered the intruder before anything worse happened. Story 6: The Vengeful Ex. In our next story, a Valentine's Day prank turned deadly. Claire had recently broken up with her boyfriend, Ryan, who did not take the breakup well. Ryan became increasingly bitter and resentful, and Claire's friends noticed his odd behavior. On Valentine's Day, Claire received a mysterious package at her office. Inside was a bouquet of black roses and a note that read, "You'll regret leaving me." Claire, disturbed, showed the note to her friends, who advised her to be cautious. That evening, Claire went home and locked all her doors and windows, feeling uneasy. She decided to spend the night at a friend's house for safety. While she was away, Ryan broke into her apartment, planning to confront her. When he realized she wasn't there, he flew into a rage, smashing her belongings and leaving another threatening note. Claire returned the next morning to find her apartment trashed and the note. "Next time, you won't be so lucky." She reported the incident to the police, who took her case seriously due to Ryan's history of violence. With the police involved, Claire obtained a restraining order against Ryan, but he continued to stalk her, leaving menacing messages and following her wherever she went. One night, Ryan cornered Claire in a parking lot, but before he could harm her, the police, who had been monitoring him, intervened and arrested him. Ryan was charged with stalking, harassment, and breaking and entering. Claire was finally able to feel safe again, but the experience left her deeply traumatized. Story 7. The Haunted Valentine. Sometimes, the past can haunt us in ways we never expect. For Samantha, Valentine's Day brought back memories of a lost love, her fiancé, Ethan, who had died in a car accident on Valentine's Day 5 years earlier. Every year, Samantha visited Ethan's grave, bringing flowers and talking to him as if he were still there. This year was no different, but something unusual happened. As she placed the flowers on his grave, she noticed a strange symbol carved into the headstone, a heart with an arrow through it, which hadn't been there before. Confused and a little frightened, Samantha asked the cemetery staff about the symbol, but no one knew anything about it. That night, she had a vivid dream of Ethan, who warned her that she was in danger. She woke up feeling uneasy and decided to stay with a friend for a few days. While she was away, her house caught fire under mysterious circumstances. The fire department couldn't determine the cause, but Samantha was convinced it was related to the symbol on Ethan's grave and his warning in her dream. Samantha continued to experience strange occurrences, flickering lights, cold drafts, and the feeling of being watched. She sought the help of a paranormal investigator, who discovered that the symbol on Ethan's grave was a warning of a malevolent spirit. With the investigator's help, Samantha performed a cleansing ritual, and the disturbances finally stopped. She never forgot Ethan's warning and remained cautious every Valentine's Day. Story 8. The Disappearing Lover. One Valentine's Day, Hannah experienced a nightmare that would haunt her for years. She and her boyfriend, Daniel, had planned a romantic getaway to a remote cabin in the mountains. They were looking forward to a peaceful weekend away from the hustle and bustle of city life. The first night was perfect. They cooked dinner together, played board games, and snuggled by the fire. But the next morning, Daniel was gone. Hannah searched the cabin and the surrounding area but found no trace of him. His car was still parked outside, and his belongings were untouched. Panicked, she called the local authorities, who conducted a thorough search of the area. Despite their efforts, Daniel was never found. Hannah was devastated and returned home alone, with no answers and a broken heart. Months later, Hannah received a letter in the mail. It was from Daniel, postmarked from a distant city. The letter explained that he had been kidnapped by a group involved. He had managed to escape, but was on the run and couldn't risk contacting her directly. He assured her he was safe, but couldn't return home until he knew he was out of danger. Hannah held on to hope that they would be reunited, but she never heard from Daniel again. Valentine's Day became a painful reminder of the love she lost and the mystery that remained unsolved. Story 9. The Cursed Gift. Our next story involves a seemingly innocent Valentine's Day gift that brought nothing but misfortune. Jack and Laura had been together for several years, and Jack always tried to find unique gifts for Laura. One year, he found an antique locket at a flea market. It was beautiful, with intricate designs and a photo of a couple inside. He thought it would be the perfect Valentine's Day gift for Laura. Laura loved the locket and wore it every day. But soon after, strange things began to happen. She had vivid nightmares of a woman crying and screaming for help. She also experienced severe headaches and unexplained bruises on her body. Jack and Laura became concerned and did some research on the locket. They discovered it had a dark history, It once belonged to a woman who had been murdered by her lover on Valentine's Day. The locket was said to be cursed, bringing misfortune and suffering to anyone who possessed it. Desperate to break the curse, Jack and Laura sought the help of a local historian, who advised them to return the locket to the flea market where it was purchased. They followed his advice, and once the locket was gone, the nightmares and bruises stopped. Jack and Laura learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of antique items with unknown histories. They never spoke of the locket again, and Valentine's Day was forever tinged with a sense of caution and unease. Story 10. The Valentine's Day Stranger. Our final story takes us to a small town where a Valentine's Day dinner ended in terror. Mary and John, a happily married couple, decided to dine at their favorite restaurant to celebrate the occasion. The restaurant was known for its intimate atmosphere and delicious food. They enjoyed a lovely meal and were about to leave when a man approached their table. He introduced himself as a friend of John's from high school, though John didn't recognize him. The man insisted he knew John and asked to join them for a drink. Feeling uneasy, but not wanting to be rude, John agreed. As they talked, the man's behavior became increasingly strange. He made cryptic comments about their past and kept glancing at Mary in a way that made her uncomfortable. Sensing something was off, John decided it was time to leave. They paid their bill and left the restaurant, but the man followed them outside. He became aggressive, demanding to know why John didn't remember him. When John tried to calm him down, the man pulled out a knife. A struggle ensued, and John managed to disarm the man, but not before both he and Mary were injured. The police arrived and arrested the man, who turned out to be a drifter with a history of mental illness. He had fixated on John, believing they had some past connection. Mary and John recovered from their injuries, but the encounter left them shaken. Valentine's Day was never the same for them, as it reminded them of the night a stranger almost took their lives. These 10 true Valentine's Day horror stories serve as a chilling reminder that even on a day meant for love and joy, darkness can lurk in the most unexpected places. As you celebrate this Valentine's Day, remember to stay safe and be aware of your surroundings. Sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones that actually happened. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more chilling tales. Until next time, stay safe and have a happy Valentine's Day.